welcome to all of you. I really feel privileged and honored to have been invited to Scleroderma India, or an organization which has grown from strength to strength and will continue to be, one of the top leaders in the world, I'm sure. And today, let me just start sharing my screen. Yeah. So today, my talk is going to be slightly different. It's going to be difficult. And that's because I think normally I keep my talk very, very simple, very, very easy to understand. But I think it's time we go beyond that today, because there are new concepts coming in, there are new medications coming in, and it's very important for patients also to understand these medications, understand what is changing in the world of scleroderma. And that's why I'm going to share a lot of these informations, which are going to be slightly more difficult for you to digest, but I'll try my best to make it as easy as possible. So I believe that knowledge dispels fear, because what is fear? It's an emotional response to a real or perceived danger, and uncontrolled fear leads to panic. So knowledge is the only way to move forward, because it helps you to rationalize. It helps us to rationalize our brain. It helps to calm our emotions. Even in the time of COVID, once we know the disease, once we know what it is, that's when we start to understand it. And that's why I always feel that people who treat must know the disease first, whether it's an alternative therapist, whether it's whatever, they must first understand the disease to be able to treat it. So the moment you start understanding the disease, the knowledge, the fear automatically starts dispelling. I know I can get through this is completely different versus I don't know how I'm going to get through this, or I hope I'm able to get through this. So knowledge helps us understand, and it's the only way we'll move forward. And science has shown that whatever is the time, whether it's the time of COVID, the vaccinations coming in, the only way forward is faith in God and faith in science and faith in yourself. And, so knowing your disease is very important. If you know the enemy and you know yourself, and I think Confucius said this, you need not fear the results of 100 battles. So have strength in yourself, have faith in yourself, have faith in God, believe in science, and let's know and understand what this disease is. And I think that's where I'm going to share certain very important things regarding. So a lot of things are happening in the field of scleroderma, exciting things. Future looks very, very bright. So when we talk of scleroderma, we talk of mainly, I'm going to talk about the skin, the lungs, some new tests, new treatments. So briefly trying to understand the disease. So there is the genetic predisposition, and by genetic, we do not mean hereditary. By genetic, we mean each individual is born with their own group of genes, which is unique to themselves. And these genes are very different from even their cousins, their own siblings, their own father, their own mother. That's why you are a different individual from them. So many times when we see genetic, it's very different from hereditary. The word hereditary means it may go to the next generation. Genetic means your gene. It's not hereditary. So some people, some kind of genes, they inherit from each of the parents, and that combination that forms, which is unique in them, can make them susceptible to the disease. And once that is there, that is not enough. There has to be a trigger, and the trigger can be environmental, can be drugs, can be infections, and so many triggers in the atmosphere that we simply don't know a lot of them. But some of them we have started to understand, and they can trigger and then cause amplification of the disease. This is because of ongoing inflammation. Stress is a very, very important part. I've seen this throughout my life. In all autoimmune rheumatic diseases, stress plays a very important role in triggering the disease and amplifying the disease. So once somebody gets diagnosed, it's very important to stay calm, stay positive. That really helps to bring down the disease. Infections and acidity can play a very important role, specifically in lungs, to amplify the disease. And from there on, whether the disease will stabilize in some people and even regress in some people. And in a few people, it may progress. So remember, everybody doesn't progress uniformly. So a lot of people would stabilize, the disease would stabilize on its own and would regress. And in many people with treatment. In a very few minority, it would progress, and that would be because of lack of treatment. Sometimes the antibody subset, and I'll tell you more about that, the skin subset, all this determines who is going to progress and who's not going to progress. And that brings me to a very important scoring system. And this is a very, very important scoring system that we rheumatologists do. Simple scoring, just by pinching the skin, we do the score, and the score is very, very important. And I'll tell you why this is important. So this is called the modified Rodnan score. It's done in these 17 sites. So pinching the skin of the fingers, the dorsum of the hand, the forearm, you can, the arm, the face, the trunk, the thighs, the legs, and the foot. So when we score this, when we pinch and we oppose the thumb and the index finger, if you are freely able to pinch the skin, and why I'm telling you this is, in COVID times, it's not possible for you to visit your doctors. So a lot of you could actually know yourself, whether your skin is worsening or not. And I tell you why that is important. So when you pinch and the skin is easily pinchable without you feeling any thickening of the skin, it's called, with minimal thickening, is probably 0 to 1. When you're just able to oppose, but you feel the thickness, it's 1. When you are able to pinch, but not able to oppose, that's 2. And then when you're just not able to pinch the skin also, that's called 3. And that's how we start scoring them. Why the score is very important? Because of 2 things. One is it also tells us the kind of disease, the subset. So basically scleroderma is divided into 2 different subsets, and they are very different from each other in many ways. One is the diffuse subset, where the skin thickening is involving the whole body. And in the other, the skin thickness is only limited to the hands, does not involve the arm and the trunk and the proximal thighs. Only the distal part of the legs and upper limbs are involved in the face. So the people where the skin is sparing, the chest, the trunk part are basically limited, and where the whole body is involved is diffuse. So it's very important to understand this differentiation. Why? Because both of them will have a different course of events. So limited disease, what happens is the skin remains very mild. The skin is not very severely involved, and they do not develop much of other organ involvements usually. So they develop pulmonary hypertension more commonly, and more commonly associated with something called as anti-centromere antibody. It's a subset of antibody which you must know. So when you know today that you have scleroderma, you must know whether you're limited, whether you're diffuse, what kind of antibody we have. That's very important for us to understand, because the antibody that we have tells us what is going to happen, what's not going to happen. So today, science has made so much of progress that we can actually, tell by looking at the antibody as to what we can expect and how we can prevent. So everything can be predicted today. So limited scleroderma is relatively a milder course with centromere positive in majority. And diffuse is where the skin tightening goes up and up and up in the first 5 years. And when the skin tightening is worsening, that is the time when the internal organ is also simultaneously can get involved. So it's very important to know the skin score early on in the disease, because if the skin score early on in the disease is worsening, increasing, the skin thickness is increasing, that means there's more chance of early internal organ involvement. And how that helps, we treat these patients aggressively, and the moment we are able to stabilize the skin, we know, yes, the disease is under control. So it's very important to understand whether it's a limited or a diffuse disease, and by scoring at simple bedside, no investigations, not expensive, and some people can learn it to do themselves. And I'm sure world over people are now learning, patients are now learning to do it themselves. In the times of COVID, we are working towards patient reported outcomes where people are themselves able to score. And when you score yourself, there is no, there's no discrepancy. You do it the same way, you do it every time. And with time, if your skin score is worsening early on in the disease, your chances of disease developing some other organ involvement is high, and you quickly identify and inform your doctor, and they're able to treat it more aggressively. On the other hand, if your skin score is pretty stable, you're doing well. So it's very important to understand that whether it is limited, whether it is diffuse, whether the skin is progressively worsening or not. Second is lungs. Now, lung becomes a very important organ, and we know that we are having fibrosis in the lungs. In scleroderma, what is fibrosis? And I'll use the word fibrosis, but I'll make you understand. Fibrosis is like a tightening or shrinking of the tissues. Just like in the skin, it can also happen in the lungs. And this is where some new treatments have started to come in. We have drugs which are known as antifibrotics. These are a new class of drugs approved now for the treatment of lung fibrosis. And these are very, very recent advanced and very promising drugs which can actually prevent those tightening from happening. So very, very important drug. So how do they work? So these green things, these are small tiny cells which are called as fibroblasts. These are the cells which go and cause the tightening. So whenever there is a damage or injury due to whatever cause in the lung, and this is the lung lining, this blue thing, these cells enter into the lungs, and by secretion of many of these substances, subsequently they start getting deposited in the lung. And in the lung, when they get deposited, they start causing contracture or tightening, or what we call as fibrosis of the lung, because they secrete this fibrotic material or strands, or whatever you call them, the strands, they basically tightening the lung, they tighten the lung. So this is where scientists, when they understood that this was happening, they found two new drugs, nintedanib and pirfenidone. Both of these drugs, what they do is they inhibit these factors which are responsible for activating these small cells, and thereby prevent these cells from causing this tightening or fibrosis in the lungs. And these two drugs have now come into our armamentarium. Fortunately, in our country, they are also available very cheaply, and they're actually transforming the way we are treating the lung fibrosis. And I'll show you some data and tell you why it is so fascinating and promising. So nintedanib, available by many names. This is the new antifibrotic drug which has shown to prevent fibrosis, tightening of the lungs. And this can actually be very, very useful. And this was a trial called Sensis trial. You must all know this trial. You must know, because it's very important, sorry, for all patients to understand both of lung fibrosis and scleroderma lung fibrosis. So I will tell you briefly, this is through the time, 52 weeks. Patients on blue are the ones who are taking the drug. Patients on this light blue not taking the drug. And this is the decline in the lung function. And what you see with this drug is the lung function actually stabilizes over a period of 52 weeks and beyond. And the patients who were not taking this drug comparatively had a much severe decline in lung function. So clearly, here was a drug which could actually bring your lung function, which would have gone normally here, without the drug, right up to here. So very, very promising drug. So you can see the difference. And the difference, and what is important I want to point out is, the difference actually starts to become more and more apparent as and as you take this drug for a longer duration. So not for 1 month, 2 months, 3 months, 4 months, but the longer. So you have to be patient. So once you start these medicines, slowly, the lung is stabilizing, compared to a slow decline. So it's not in a day that happens, but over months and years. So it's very important to understand that when you're on this drug, you expect improvement to come very slowly. So when you're in touch with your rheumatologist or your pulmonologist, when they have put you on this drug, please expect the improvement to come very slowly and over a long period of time. Do not get disheartened if in the initial 2 months you don't feel, I'm so sorry. If in the initial 2 months, I'm so sorry. If in the initial 1 or 2 months, you're not getting a very good response, there will be a good response, but it will take time. So please wait, and please do not discontinue the medications. We must continue these medications. Only when we are on these drugs for a very long duration, you start to see the benefit, which would not have been seen had we not been on these medications. So very, very important data. And this drug shows very important improvement. Also, it has shown that, so on my right, these are the patients who had very bad skin involvement, very tight skin, and on the left were the ones who had less tight skin. So even in the ones who had very tight skin involvement, as I told you, the tighter the skin, the worse the chances of lung involvement. In them, look at the improvement was much better. So this is a decline in the lung function, very less decline with nintedanib preserved compared to what would have happened to the lung had they not taken, when they were not taking the drug. So the lung function declined this much. But here it was almost preserved to a great extent. The decline was significantly retarded, even in those who have very severe skin, much better than the ones who had milder skin. So because severe the disease, more better the response. So that's also a very promising thing about this drug. What is also very important across all the trials is when we combine this drug nintedanib with mycophenolate, and as all of you know that mycophenolate and cyclophosphamide are two very important drugs for lung disease. So when we add this drug to mycophenolate, the decline in the lung is very less compared to either drug used alone. Only nintedanib, only mycophenolate, and of course, if you don't use anything, the lung does decline very fast. But when you're using the combination of both the drugs, it's the best. It's one of the best. And this really shows that either used alone or when you're using in combination can work even better. And this drug is also used in idiopathic fibrosis or pulmonary fibrosis, which may not be scleroderma related, but maybe without a cause. What about the safety of this drug? When we look about the safety, usually a very safe drug, very safe. Mild diarrheas can happen, which will resolve over a period of time by tapering down the dose. Some nausea can happen in the beginning, skin ulcer, very rare, vomiting and diarrhea can happen, mild cough can happen, and some nasal stuffiness, which is nothing. So it doesn't have any strong immunosuppressive effect. It's not a drug which will decrease the immune system or cause any severe infection. So very safe drug that way. The other drug is pirfenidone. Now this is again an antifibrotic, a drug just like nintedanib, which will reduce the lung fibrosis. Again, if you look at the studies, you can see the blue is pirfenidone. What it does, it preserves the lung compared to the red line where we are not taking, and what is happening to the lung is deteriorating. Again, you see a significant improvement, and the improvement is happening, and this is fibrotic lung disease. Not necessarily scleroderma, but fibrotic lung disease. And usually we are understanding that fibrosis is a common factor in many of these lung diseases. So clearly pirfenidone, as you can see in the blue, has a distinct advantage over not taking anything. And there was a study by Dr. Dinesh, which was known as the Lotus trial, which showed that pirfenidone, when was combined with mycophenolate, was a very safe as mycophenolate alone, MMF, CellCept, whatever you call it, alone. So even adding this drug was safe. And as you know, the scleroderma lung study 3 is underway, and we'll get the results very soon, because encouraged by these results, they have gone ahead, and what they have done is they've combined pirfenidone with MMF, and they're giving it to one group of patients. And the other group are only receiving MMF, and they want to see and they feel that maybe this drug will add on to the benefit when combined with mycophenolate, just like nintedanib. And let's wait for that study to get over, but looks quite promising. And is a very safe drug when added. What about tolerability? So whether any kind of ILD or interstitial lung disease, even scleroderma lung disease, in majority, it is very well tolerated drug, very well tolerated, blue bar, very well tolerated. Minority of the patients, the red bars, they need to reduce the dose if they are getting diarrhea or nausea. And in very few number of people, we have to discontinue. So majority 1500 to 1200. So doses can be reduced sometimes to 1200. Even 900 in very few patients has been reduced. So even if you're not tolerating, just don't stop it. Talk to your rheumatologist, talk to your pulmonologist, they may reduce the dose. So that would also be beneficial. And again, I will show you this blue bar is at day 1, then is the orange is at day 6, or 6 months, and the green is at 12 months. So look at the lung function. These are the various lung function tests. With pirfenidone at 0 month, 6 months, 12 months, over a period of 1 year, very well preserved, 80%, very well preserved, just like nintedanib. And this is not a direct comparison, but an indirect comparison. And you find that both the drugs compare quite equally with each other when they come to preserving the lung function at 0, 6 months, and 1 year. The lung functions are preserved. So both the drugs, pirfenidone and nintedanib, is a very good add-on drug to scleroderma lung disease. Both can prevent the fibrosis from worsening. Both can be combined to mycophenolate and would work. Friends, again, a very exciting time for scleroderma. We have this new drug which we were using in rheumatoid arthritis, and now it's one of the first drugs probably to have got approved for scleroderma lung fibrosis. This drug is called Actemra. Actemra or tocilizumab. This drug is also being now used for COVID, and in severe COVID, we use this drug and it helps to save lives because, as you know, COVID is also very similar to scleroderma. In COVID, the virus triggers the immune system and the immune system attacks the lungs. It's exactly similar. And the lung fibrosis, you will not believe, the fibrosis in the lung that happens post-COVID is very, very similar to what happens in scleroderma, only it happens very fast. And this does the drug which is preventing that, saving lives of patients. And this is also the drug which has now got approved for scleroderma lung disease. And this was the trial where they showed, again, the red bar is the patients who were taking tocilizumab. Look at the lung function stabilizing, early lung disease, and the ones who were not taking, the lung function was declining very fast. So tocilizumab again proved to be a very, very effective therapy for early scleroderma lung disease. Very, very fascinating. Initially, they thought it would benefit in the skin. And as you can see, the red bar, the skin tightness did decrease. So if you see the red bar, you can see the skin tightening was declining or improving in the tocilizumab group as compared to the placebo group. Not very, very significantly, but there was a mild improvement. So initially they thought that this drug would lead to very good improvement in the skin, but you can see the improvement skin is there, but perhaps statistically not there. But what was important was that the lung improvement was very, very good. The other drug that is being used, and today I feel world over, all scleroderma patients, whether the doctors, whether rheumatologists or pulmonologists, feel there is a need, urgent need for a proper trial of this drug, because this is a drug which in all different small studies showing very good response in scleroderma lung disease, but we still need a good multicentric trial. And I think Dinesh is probably going to initiate again. He was talking and saying that this is a very need of the hour to do a very important trial on this drug rituximab, which also proves to be very, very important. And again, let's look at the effect on the skin. And this is again one small study published in Annals of Rheumatic Disease. Again, you can see the red is the decline in the skin tightening with this drug. And look at the skin tightening declining. Look at the red bar. The skin tightening is declining, is improving with rituximab as compared to the blue line, where the skin tightening remains or slightly is declining because these people may be on a baseline mycophenolate. But with rituximab, much more improvement. And not only skin, look at the lung, how it stabilizes on rituximab as compared to not being on this drug. So again, if you look at the lung, stabilizing actually and maybe slightly improving on rituximab as compared to not improving. So again, small studies, but very important, very promising drug rituximab. So we've understood that for lung now we have new drugs. We have this drug Actemra, we have rituximab, which are very, very important drugs for scleroderma lung disease. Skin, maybe to some extent they are improving, but new treatment is going to come for that also. Two important tests I'll talk today. One is this very important test called nail fold capillaroscopy. I think most of you should start to know about this test, because most of the rheumatologists are now doing these tests. And what is this test based on? This is your nail bed. And when we look at the nail bed under a microscope, and this is just a simple nail fold capillaroscopy where we put a drop of oil on the nail bed and we can look through this microscope. Normally we have these small hairpin-like blood loops. This is normally seen. But in early scleroderma, we can see these loops getting dilated. Because we know scleroderma affects the blood vessels, we can see it directly on the fingertip through a simple microscope which is just put on your finger. This is very important for two reasons. When patients present with Raynaud's, and I have told you what Raynaud's is, all of you know Raynaud's. Raynaud's can happen in a variety of connective tissue disease. But how we differentiate scleroderma, very early scleroderma, even before the skin has started to tighten, is when we look at the nail fold capillaroscopy and we pick up these giant capillaries. We can actually stage. So this is how it looks. These are small normal capillaries. In early scleroderma, we get these giant bulbous, huge capillaries, which are few in number. When we know this is early stage of the disease. In active stage, we get number of these giant capillaries or big capillaries. And in late stages, all these giant and normal capillaries are gone and they are subsequently replaced by these bushy, or what we call like a bush capillaries. So this can also stage the stage of the disease. And now new studies are showing that this may also correlate with the risk of developing pulmonary hypertension. The other important thing today, and you must know this, even though it sounds difficult, I'll make it try to look it simple, is the antibodies. Today, friends, antibodies define the subset of the disease. Limited skin involvement only. Some antibodies on the left side, you can see skin involvement may become diffuse. And I've told you what is limited and diffuse. Some antibodies, we know more of lung involvement in form of ILD, lung fibrosis. Other antibodies like anticentromere, almost no chance of ILD. So every person is not the same. Every individual who has scleroderma is not the same. An anticentromere is different, and anti-SL70 is different, and RNA pol3, more chances of skin or lung involvement, sometimes kidney. And if you have U1RNP or something else, very mild disease. So it's also very important to understand what antibody we have, and an effort has to be made. And this is important because your rheumatologist, your pulmonologist would ask for these advanced tests, and these are important to be able to know which group you belong to, whether you belong to this group of anti-centromere, because this means you will have a mild skin, but you may develop pulmonary hypertension. You may not develop lung fibrosis. But if you have topoisomerase or SCL70, more chances of lung. And we know that we can treat this early, because if we know this early, what can happen? We can prevent. We know that this patient, the lung may progress, may need more treatment. This patient will need less treatment. So it's important today, friends, to understand that we must also look at the antibodies. This is very, very important. Again, important new concept. And again, friends, this is a very, very important concept. Again, difficult to understand. I'll try to make it simple, but I think it's time you people understand. It's time we all understand the new concept. The concept is of disease progression. Now, everybody who develops lung fibrosis at day one is not going to progress. So how do we know a person is going to progress? So when your pulmonologist or your rheumatologist do the lung function test, they are looking at this thing called FVC. If this is declining at 10% or more over a period of time, then we understand that this is the person who's going to deteriorate. The lung is deteriorating. We need to do something about it urgently. So your pulmonologist is going to look at FVC and DLCO, or your rheumatologist is going to look at FVC and DLCO. Only these two very important parameters in lung function. So do not shy away from the lung function test. Very easy test to do, simple test to do. If it is difficult to do, then there are other ways to know. We do a CT scan. But it is important to understand that by doing this simple test every 6 months, instead of the CT every 6 months, we do CT probably annually. But 6 monthly, this can tell us whether the lung is stable or declining. But also what is most important is what the patient feels, because understand that these tests, every test, there's no test which is absolute. Every test have flaws. They are made by human beings. They have flaws. Okay. So tests are made by human beings to understand something that is made by God. So it's very difficult. We don't have the instruments to measure everything in this universe, but we try our best. So sometimes the lung function test can be false. Why? Because you're not able to do the test properly at that particular day. Maybe the technician did not make you understand how to do it. Maybe you were tired. So this always may not be useful. So what is very important is your overall well-being. So I always ask patients in the last 6 months, what has happened to you when you get up in the morning and go to do your daily chores, or you go to the washroom and come back? Do you feel more and more tired, more and more breathless? If that is happening, then that is one surest indicator that probably the lung is worsening. It may not always be in the form of cough. It may be just getting tired more and more. It may be just getting fatigued more and more. That may be the only sign of a worsening lung. So it's very important to tell these things to share this with your doctor and do these tests time to time. Why? Now we know that there are two kinds of things, and this is a very new concept I'm giving you. There are people who can rapidly progress, but there are also patients who can gradually progress. So earlier we used to think that if the decline on the function test is happening within 1 to 2 years, they are rapidly progressing and we need to treat. But if it is stable in the first 2 years, oh, they are fine, we need not treat. That's not true. Now we understand that even after 2 years, they may start declining. So this decline, if it is not happening in the first 2 years, we still need to look beyond 2 years, and we can't be happy and say, okay, this is good. No, at least 4 years. If there is no decline, only then it is stabilizing. Similarly, on the CT, first 2 years stability, good, but it should be stable even after 2 years. So first 4 to 5 years is the most important period. And what I want to make you understand by this is important learning that lung tightening can progress even after being stable for 2 years. So we must not leave treatment before 5 years. And this is what I've been seeing from day one. And this is what we are understanding through all the trials, that when we have stopped the medicine early, the disease has come back. When we think 2 years the patient is doing well, it's not actually, he's doing well definitely, but he may still progress, she may still progress. So 5 years watchful eye is required for the lung, and treatment should be at least 5 years. This is very important. So who are the people who could progress? Usually males who have high skin tightening at baseline. That's the very important thing, and SCL70. So if these, so sorry. So these are few factors that can tell us. So diffuse skin involvement. So that's why skin scoring is very, very important. So if your skin score is more and SCL70 is positive, high chances of progression, we must treat them very early, even if the lung function is normal. And this is what is increasingly now coming out, that even if the lung function has not deteriorated, but there is high, CRP is high, your skin involvement is high, SCL70 antibody kind of antibody is present, high risk of progression, we must treat even the mildest one, because every damage is irreversible. So we must not let damage happen. There is no question of that. We must treat early. What are protective factors? If the skin disease is limited, mild skin involvement, we don't have SCL70, we have say anti-centromere, anti-RNA pol 3, lung function stable over 4 years, 4 to 5 years, everything stable, things are good. So first 4 to 5 years, friends, we need to watch. We need to know what is the skin. We need to know what is the antibody, and that's important. That's very, very important. So why I'm saying this is, your rheumatologist, your pulmonologist may say you need treatment, and you may say, well, my lung looks okay, but because of certain risk factors, we need to keep it okay. We know that this may deteriorate, and we have seen, and I've shown you studies where these drugs can completely preserve if used early. So very important concepts. So a few important concepts about the strategy. So as I said, even if there's a subclinical disease, which means clinically you are fine, doctor, I'm fine, I don't have anything, very mild involvement, but there is high risk of progression because of diffuse skin involvement, high CRP, SCL70, we must start treatment, and these are the patients who will benefit very early on with this drug called tocilizumab or Actemra. Very useful drug for early disease, mycophenolate. So even if the lung is not overtly involved, mild involvement, so let's understand today we are moving from late identification to early identification, prevention. That's the key concept today. And when there's only lung, no other organ involvement, then that's where probably the nintedanib alone can work. Antifibrotics or mycophenolates or cyclophosphamide again alone can work. And when there is skin involvement, joint involvement, mycophenolate or cyclophosphamide and rituximab, friends, can be very useful. If the disease is progressing despite this treatment, what do? We must think of hematopoietic stem cell transplant. I'll come to that. Change therapy, add antifibrotic if not added initially, change to rituximab, add rituximab if not given, not working, go for transplant. So there is a whole hierarchy. We know what steps to follow. We must follow them rapidly, quickly change, adapt to therapy, change therapy, do our best to stop the disease from progressing. And that's the best thing we can do today. So first scenario, diffuse skin involvement, early disease, very mild lung problem, tocilizumab should be given early on. And why I'm giving you this concept is because if you don't know this concept and tomorrow the pulmonologist or rheumatologist offers this treatment, people feel, well, why was I given such a heavy drug? I don't need it. This is the concept behind which, the thought behind which, with which a doctor is prescribing this drug. These are evidence-based, and they prevent the worsening. But despite this drug, if there's a disease worsening, we change to rituximab, we can consider stem cell transplant. If there is only fibrosis, nothing else, antifibrotics can work. multi-organ involvement, lung worsening, we can give either mycophenolate, we could add one of these antifibrotics, give cyclo, we can combine these drugs in various combinations, prevent. And if still not preventing, stem cell transplant. If still not happening, lung transplant. Some new drugs. Riociguat, this is a new drug. This is shown to prevent pulmonary hypertension. And friends, another new drug which is going to come is Selexipag. And I'm going to tell you just one word about these drugs. And I'll take this one small article in the Journal of Rheumatology. What this drug can do to severe digital ulcers. Look at this. This was a case of severe Raynaud's and digital ischemia. And look at what has happened after taking this drug. Fantastic improvement. And this is just few patients that they presented, but very, very promising drug, Selexipag. It's basically, again, a vasodilator. And as I've explained you, it dilates and increases the blood flow into the skin, which is a problem in skeletal muscles. What this is going to do is going to heal the digital ulcers very quickly. Again, this is a patient before Selexipag and after Selexipag. So again, a very interesting drug, very exciting new drugs coming in. So friends, a lot of new things happening. A peep into the future is adipose and fat grafting and stem cell transplant in scleroderma, right? So what is stem cell transplant? Stem cell transplant is basically where, so they initially try to harvest or grow the stem cells to give cyclophosphamide and something called as stimulating factor, which stimulates the stem cells. Once the stem cells are stimulated, they are processed, and the white blood cells, which are the ones which can cause reactions, they are filtered out, and this blood is preserved and it is reinfused. So taken from the patient and reinfused, autologous, which means same blood, your own blood removed, the stem cells are removed from your body, purified, processed, and then given back. Again, you need not see this. You need to know these three trials: ASSIST, ASTIS, SCOT. Three very important trials. And what these three trials tell us is very important thing. Which are the ones, who are the patients? Am I a patient for stem cell transplant? That's the question. And the answer is, if the disease duration is less than 4 years, if it's a rapidly progressive disease, severe skin involvement and internal organ involvement, but no permanent damage. The heart condition, friends, should be good. There should not be severe hypertension, pulmonary hypertension. Okay. So early disease, rapidly progressive disease, not improving with the medicines which I showed you, tocilizumab or rituximab or cyclophosphamide or nintedanib. We have used everything. The person is rapidly progressing. The disease duration is not very long. These are the ones who are going to benefit. These are the ones. So remember, stem cell transplant is most useful in the first 5 years. In those patients who have a rapidly progressive disease, unfortunately, not responding to the treatment, must be offered this condition. The heart condition should be good. They should not have severe pulmonary hypertension. What I call is the rule of 4, 14, and 40. 4 years of disease, not more. Skin score very severe, more than 14. The heart and lung condition and kidney condition should be 40 or better, which means the lung function, ejection fraction we call, more than 40. The lung function, FVC, more than 40, and the kidney clearance more than 40. So if this is there, then these are the best people for stem cells. Now, mesenchymal stem cells, fat grafting is coming up in a very big way. This is again one small paper. I'm just taking the images to show. So here is a guy whose mouth opening is very reduced, and they have injected the mesenchymal stem cells with PRP or without PRP into the face. And what it has done is very good improvement in the face, very good opening in the mouth. Again, this is a lady. Again, you can see the opening pre and post, and the wrinkles and everything improves. So fat grafting probably today is coming up as a very, very interesting option for perioral facial improvement. Even skin involvement of the hands can work very well. So a lot of exciting things happening. A very promising future is what I'm going to tell you and leave you with. No need for despair. And I'm just going to leave you with all this. You need not know this, but you can understand there's so much happening. So many medications coming in for skin fibrosis, for lung fibrosis. And in the near future, in the next 5 years, increasingly every second year or year, you will find a new and new drugs coming in, which are going to do very good. And we'll enter an era where we'll be able to diagnose early, pick up early, treat early and prevent. So, and even maybe reverse fibrosis with time. The work is also going on. So you can see so much things happening that there is absolute positivity. So stay positive, better days are on their way. Think positive, and yes, we can. That's my message to you. And thank you so much for inviting me today. Thanks a lot.